So, hello everyone. This is Iza. I decided to do these little capsules to talk about comics that I like in French or English or novels I like because a lot of people have asked me to do this in the past. So, I'm going to start now. I'm going to talk about comics that I like or comics that I feel are important to read. Although not necessarily always because the story is really good. Sometimes there's just something historically interesting about it or artistically interesting. So it's gonna vary in what they are. For this first video, I've got two series to suggest. The first one is a French series by Algeciras and Aurore. And oh, that's my cat. Hi, Oni. Just walking on the book. That's cool. So this first series is a three-part series, like this. There's three parts. So the first thing to know about it is that it's terribly beautiful. It's just beautiful. The story is about a young seamstress that joins the House Tiffany, which is a house that does couture dresses for ladies in that world. And it's sort of like a Victorian setting. And Eleanor is brilliant and beautiful, but sadly, my cat. She's brilliant and beautiful, but sadly she has an eating disorder, which comes into play in the story. The story is for kids, but it's got a pretty harsh ending. Like, it's a tragic ending. Like, spoiler, she dies. But it's got really interesting themes about creativity, about workplace harassment, about eating disorders. So even though the character dies, and she mostly dies because it's realistic for her to die in this context with the problem she has. So it's not really like a whole like, oh no, we want to do a tragic ending. It's like, no, there's a reason and it makes sense. It's sad, but it makes sense. And it's just really good and it's really pretty. The attention to detail in the pages is incredible. And a few people might remember Aurore from being like an old school webcomic artist. Like, she did a bunch of stuff online, and she's kind of been around for a while on the internet, so a few people might recognize the style. And both her and Algeciras are on social media, and I will link to them in the video description. So I'm just gonna find a shot of dresses because they are pretty. And everybody knows that Iza loves pretty dresses. The text is really, like, there's a lot of text. So if you're beginning in French, maybe not the most accessible book, but definitely a fun read. Okay, so to follow up with a book in English, this time is a webcomic, so the webcomic Monster Pulse. It's an ongoing webcomic, so you can totally read it online and it's ongoing. And it started off in black and white, but now it's in color. Although, I kind of like it better in black and white, but that's a personal opinion. Monster Pulse is about a group of kids that get mixed up with this science experiment, which makes it so that some of their body parts turn into monsters. Rest assured, it is not disgusting. It's, very tasteful. So their body parts turn into, like, monsters that are connected with them, but that all have special powers. So they're trying to use these monsters to prevent other kids from being monsterfied, and also to find the laboratory and sort of stop them or put those body parts back in their bodies. Like, they're not, I don't think they're 100% sure why they're doing this either. But they're kids, so it's normal. They're still deciding, like, I don't know what the situation is yet. I'm still coming to terms with it. So I think it's pretty realistic that they're a bit lost. And this series gives me feelings. Like, feelings similar to when I was reading Ella Enchanted as a kid. So, like, just fun characters and this, like, great family dynamics, and also, like, how they act together, how they react with their monsters, and a strange, also, love and hate relationship they have with the monsters, because they obviously love the monsters. Symbolically, the monsters are part of them, but also, they get along with them, and they appreciate them, and they appreciate the friendship that they forge with their monsters and with the other kids who also have the monsters, so they kind of have this, like, a little exclusive club that are super close to. So there's a lot of affection for the monsters, but the monsters are also part of their physical body. So if they die, then the kids die too, and that's a bummer. So you definitely see that there's a strain on the relationship. And in the case of Bina, who is the hero, which we see on the cover, obviously the monster is her heart. So there's also this whole emotional aspect that's tied to it. It's really good. And like I said, it gives me a lot of feelings, and I think it's really good for teenagers to read. Like if you've got a 12-year-old that needs a really good comic to like find themselves and stuff like that, this comic is definitely that. And it's really good. It doesn't pull its punches either, but it always stays very tasteful. Like there's no gore, there's no like yucky stuff at all. But at the same time, it still has that really like hard edge approach, which I appreciate. It reminds me a lot of older media, like I said, like stuff like Ella Enchanted or older 80s movies where they don't screw around. They're like, yeah, stuff is dangerous. Come on. But it still has that naivete of children and that beauty in like finding yourself and all that, which I think is really amazing. So yeah, Monster Pulse, which you can read online in English, and Edenal Jones, which I think you can't read in English yet. I might be wrong. I will check that out. And but if you can get the French copy, like even if you can't understand a single word of it, it is beautiful and well deserving of your time. So that's all for my first video. I will try to do more as I read more stuff. Sorry that this is a bit like cobbled together, but I'm just kind of trying a thing. So thank you, and talk to you guys next week.